Hi everyone, it's me again, and today we are revisiting Miss Gabbie Hanna because with how dry the drama sphere is, I'm feeling sentimental about the inception of this channel, and I want to check back with Gabbie Hanna and the total shift over the past 4 years or so since I started making content. And the last time I talked about Gabbie in any capacity was February 1st of 2024, so about a year and a half ago from filming this. Before we get into things, links, sources, all that kind of stuff, ways to support the channel, all down below, including Patreon, YouTube members, all that kind of stuff. Thank you to my current YouTube members and patrons. Love you dearly with your names on the screen. Parts of the video. I gotta make this one quick. It's 30 degrees. In American numbers, y'all can figure that out. I have lights on to film, and I can't leave my door open. I don't have central air. It's going to be hot as booty in here, so I need to get it going. 3 parts of the video. Part 1, how everyone turned against Gabbie. So we're going to recap kind of a bit from before. Part 2, Gabbie's hiatus and return. And part 3, apology video and marriage. So part 1, how everyone turned against Gabbie. So Gabbie Hanna began her career on Vine, a fact that is not unique for many social media figures that had kind of risen at that time. And at the time she posted as Gabbie Show or The Gabbie Show. During that time, Gabbie befriended fellow Vine star David Dobrik, which later moved into the Vlog Squad. And Gabbie Hanna was a frequent participant of the Vlog Squad videos. And in those videos, many people were noticing, especially in retrospect, that Gabbie Hanna was very frequently ridiculed in those videos. Despite this, Gabbie grew a very impressive following on her personal channel, which has gone back and forth from being called The Gabbie Show to just her name, Gabbie Hanna, and she mainly grew a platform from storytime videos and collaborations with other creators on YouTube. Things began to shift publicly once Gabbie started getting into controversies, from the rice gum smashing her phone, which again, I think it was rice gum that was out of line for that, to friendships dissolving, such as hers with Jessie Smiles, Gabbie's friendly persona kind of starting to crumble as a result of these many falling outs. And this was even before we knew the true extent about why many of these things were happening. Personally, I think what broke Gabbie Hanna in the public eye and people turning against her was actually her becoming victim to what I discussed in my last video on Jacob Sartorius, the cringe complex, because she began really seeing music as an influencer. And the reality is, and music, art, slam poetry, a lot of things, and a lot of them, essentially all of them, got memed on.
And the mother said he's praying for him. The homeless baby praying for the other homeless baby. Wake the f*** up. Wake the f*** up before we go to sleep. Wake the f*** up. There's babies on the street.
And the reality is, especially at this time, circa 2018-ish, it kind of seemed like every influencer was making music regardless of if they had any talent, any true desire to do it, or if they were just trying to kind of farm streams and views. It kind of made Gabbie Hanna feel inauthentic in that context. It is essentially impossible for influencers to break through as artists, especially depending on the type of content that they made. Gabbie also had the biggest enemy of all, which was genuinely just how seriously she took herself, no matter the quality of the content that she was putting out. This became very clear with her time on the YouTube Red series, Escape the Night. While we weren't aware at the time, it would all come out from 2020 to 2023, how awful she was to work with and how much of a hellscape she made projects that she worked with other people. Then 2021 is when everything began to truly crash down. The seriousness combined with the criticism rejection due to her emergence through ridicule, and that sort of when you are just told you're cringe all the time, no matter what you do, you're no longer able to actually perceive what accurate criticism is. It was kind of all coming together to put Gabbie in a really bad place. Now, I say that not excusing anything that she did in any capacity. Let's be realistic. I was one of those people that was constantly commenting on her, kind of pointing out all the things that were wrong and just being in shock of the actions that she was doing. At the end of the day, the way that she was acting was horribly unfair and abhorrent and unacceptable, especially for a grown adult to be acting towards other people. Because you have to remember, she got famous on Vine at 23 in 2015. She's 33 years old now, so she was 30 at the time. And she was acting in a way that when I was 21, was shocked that an adult would be doing. At times genuinely evil and just inexcusable in every, it was just actually wild. To think that a lot of that particular crash out, if you will, or which is too colloquially used, I have trouble saying that, pardon me, used in a certain context, but with Gabbie Hanna, it feels somewhat fitting. This began from fellow creator Rachel Oates doing a review on Gabbie's poetry books, Adolescence and Dandelion.
Now, what I will say before we get started is I am not a poet myself. I am just a fan of poetry. That's all there is to it. Could I write better than Gabbie? Almost definitely not. But also, I'm not trying to sell my poetry to anyone else, so that's a difference. I think the minute you start trying to sell your stuff to other people, you know, it's pretty open to criticism. If I have paid money for your book, I feel I can critique it if it doesn't live up to what I expected. The other thing I will say before we properly get started is that poetry is completely subjective. While we can analyse it and say this is a good poem, this is a bad poem, they're kind of only from kind of technical perspectives. What you like and don't like is completely up to you, and there's no right and wrong there at all. This video is just my opinion and my analysis based on what I do like and don't like in poetry. It is purely my opinion. So if you actually really like Gabbie's poetry, or if you hate a poem that I say that I like or whatever, absolutely fine. We don't have to agree on everything. Like I say, poetry is subjective. And just because I critique a poem that you might like, that doesn't mean I'm putting down your opinion. That does not mean I'm belittling your opinion. You are completely entitled to feel however you want about this work. If it's something that speaks to you, if it's something that is really meaningful to you, then yeah, I'm not looking down on that at all. You are more than entitled to that view.
And then Adult Lessons was the first one. Gabbie was really not happy with this. This opened a can of worms that Gabbie Hanna was never able to close. She attacked people for no reason and to the absolutely lowest points, like Jessie Smiles, who was sexually assaulted by her partner, and Gabbie it seemed to have kind of, based on the story, was like supported her partner that and was like still talking to him and stuff like that, which is just absolutely unacceptable. And then Gabbie was like, Jessie Smiles is evil and was never my friend anyway, and would just go on these crazy tirades. Antithesis, which means a common enemy, which she paints Jessie Smiles as the common enemy.
A hate campaign that you fucking started. 5 months you don't post. But I'm posting a project and you have to say, did Gabbie apologize? And nobody points that out. Nobody points out. And then in that video, we're talking about Jessie Smiles now. She says she doesn't regret what she did because she had to speak her truth. Well, I'm speaking my truth. She said, I'm setting the example of how people treat me. I'm going to show you how I'm going to let people treat me. You are narcissistic abusers. And you have been for 6 fucking years, Jessie Smiles.
Which you can see in the DMs from Jessie Smiles' video as well. Also, common enemy is Jen Dent. People that just are against Gabbie Hanna is the common enemy, because they are defaming me. They are therefore defaming something that you love, and by trickle down the kind of ladder, defaming you in a way. And then unnoticed remarks means relating through language. We're fighting this. We, us, you. Which is just so prevalent. I'll put in the clip where she says, I'm bringing my fans. It's all about my fans.
Fine, and just sue me, and we'll see what happens in court. And then we don't have to bring our followers through this. We don't have to bring our fans through this. And we get to the bottom of what's been, hurting you. Just sue me, and then we won't have to bring our fans into this.
I'm more interested in bringing my fans into it because those are the ones who are affected.
But
I don't want your money, Jessie. I do not want your money.
This is far beyond any of the petty things like the drama on Escape the Night or any of those kind of smaller fallouts. And the way that, even when we're talking about Rachel Oates, the way that Gabbie attacked her day in and day out with what could arguably very much be described as slander at worst, but harassment and bullying at best, was just absolutely inexcusable. And Rachel made a video about this pretty recently, which I talk about throughout the script as well, that really reflects on the reality of how these types of things have affected her. Gabbie kept going from these and made videos that so many people forgot about, which were literally like these hit piece videos where she would just be so nasty and called like a different person per week, like a narcissistic abuser. And it was supposed to be like this series where she took back herself. And if I check right now, I can almost assure you, but bets right now, that none of those videos are up anymore. Yeah, there's none. There's her oldest video. All she has is the All I Want for Christmas parody, Why Social Media Ruins Relationships, then music video, a video for the poetry book, slam poetry, more music videos, the dancing video, I think. That might be a music video too, actually. A poem that she read seemingly naked in the bathtub or something. And then there are a bunch of videos from when she like came back to the internet, but also some of these are very low views, which is interesting. She's averaging about, the thing is that it really depends. It will be like 470,000 views and then 50,000 views, then 143,000, then 27,000. But she's averaging under 50,000 a video for like the past little while. Which, I mean, there's some that are under 10,000, which is wild. But yeah, anyway, these are definitely, obviously not ideal videos. And the last video that she uploaded was the long overdue apology video, which we'll talk about later, 10 months ago, that only got 170,000 views for a channel with 5 million subscribers. So I did watch Rachel Oates' video that was released on September 4th, 2024 that talks about Gabbie Hanna's apology. And we'll get to it more later, but a lot of the video was reminding the audience kind of just how Gabbie Hanna was like really treating her, kind of reminiscing and talking about her time through 2020, and then kind of talking about how everything had happened with Jimmy Snow, which is kind of how I got monetized for real, and how I kind of got my stride, which is so interesting. The Gabbie Hanna, Rachel Oates, Jimmy Snow situation, which is what I had talked about. And this icon even showed the DMs outright. Rachel just put them on the screen. Sheesh! That was crazy. Anyway, the Gabbie Hanna, Jimmy Snow, Rachel Oates video, another very canon moment in the Mika's Rhetoric cinematic universe. In that video, as in the one talking about Gabbie Hanna's apology, Rachel also played through the Instagram stories I'd forgotten about that were the non-stop stories of Gabbie Hanna calling people narcissistic abusers. And yes, saying any pushback, frustration, or negative comments were bullying or gaslighting, exploitation. Anybody that wasn't exactly aligned with Gabbie Hanna was just like the most evil person on earth, and it was just such an absurd time to watch somebody on the internet.
Trying to deny the reason she deleted Twitter, so I actually want to let you know what happened. So we have a mutual friend who messaged her outside of me. I literally did not talk to him at all. He saw that she was doing, and he messaged her and he said, have some compassion. You've been the center of hate campaigns online. Leave this girl alone. Like, you're just bullying. And then she started a Twitter campaign trying to say that I manipulated her friend into defending me. That's how narcissistic and abusive this is, and how much she cannot accept any type of criticism, which is hilarious because she really thinks that I can't accept criticism, when the first time her friend confronted her about her shitty toxic behavior, she blamed me, the permanent goat of the fucking internet, and then stopped talking to her friend. Face yourself, bitch. Like, that's crazy to me.
You know, actually, just again, I have more to add, because there's so many things she's just like blatantly lied about and said about me that just isn't true. And I'm looking back now, and there's like the thing where she was tweeting out as well. It wasn't just Instagram, it was Twitter as well. It was everywhere, and I didn't even have Twitter at this point because I deleted it for a whole bunch of reasons, half of which was the Jimmy Snow thing, and I just felt it was bad for my mental health and like all of that stuff. But she deleted her Twitter when people started calling her out on her abusive, manipulative, relentless abuse towards me. You know, like a cowardly loser. That's not why I deleted Twitter. I deleted it because I was sick of this like back and forth, and I felt like you couldn't say enough in these like 140 characters, and it was like all these like misunderstandings were happening, and it wasn't even just that. There was the Jimmy thing, and like on the whole, once people saw my video and they realized people were on my side, people weren't calling me out and calling me abusive and manipulative and saying it was relentless. People weren't saying that because I wasn't doing it. But like, I got so tired of all the negativity on there and people just being angry all the time. So that was a big thing. There was something else. 1 second.
And it was interesting because I was talking about making this video today with one of my coworkers, and she said, like, when somebody said, well, who is that? Because somebody didn't know what I was talking about. She just said this was a girl who had a public breakdown on the internet. And that is genuinely just the best way to kind of explain how this all happened. And what's so funny about this is that there was a whole spiral about Gabbie Hanna thinking that she's Bo Burnham because she tried to copy him for her book. When we go back to 2021, in 2022, when Gabbie Hanna was making all those hit piece videos, all these different people started making kind of like their overall responses to her and just being like, you know what, we've had enough. There was Jesse Smiles, Daniel Prada, Joey Graceffa, Alex James. Those were people who knew her personally, along with just seemingly countless commentary videos, just kind of showing everything that was going on, and that really kind of put the nail in the coffin. Gabbie eventually moved on to posting exclusively on TikTok. Then she went to nonstop posting and going live there. But then essentially what had happened was one day somebody had convinced Gabbie to let them into her house. There are obviously tons of videos that detail this, like kind of how this had all happened. This was after months of concerning posts, cannabis consumption every single day, every single hour it seemed, and just getting a ton of tattoos. And at that point, all of a sudden after the whole coming into the house, Gabbie also started kind of shifting, and then she was painting all the time, and then she started getting a bunch of tattoos, and then was starting to get them all removed. She actually has a video, something like getting on my tattoo tour before I remove them all, which was interesting. But anyway, and that sort of kind of gets us to part 2, which is part 2, Gabbie Hanna's hiatus and return. In 2023, at the tail end of Gabbie's spiral, she posted on TikTok about removing the tattoos that I was talking about. This was February 13th or 14th, depending on like your time zone. 2 days later, Gabbie posted a selfie with an emoji caption and nothing else. No one heard anything from Gabbie for months. She appeared on very small channels on occasion, one of them called Sauna Sessions with Prince EA, where I might have said that wrong. I'll put the channel, obviously the banner below me, where Gabbie spoke of deleting her social media apps, but not the accounts. And then there was just kind of noticeably constant references to the Bible, and this becomes relevant throughout this conversation.
And I think creativity is that divine energy, and you really embody that. I want to ask you, so before we started talking, we spoke about the platforms and how I think you
Deleted everything.
deleted all your
I'm trying to
Instagram
work
and-
up the strength to actually delete,
Okay.
but I can't figure out if that's what I'm supposed to do or not. Specifically TikTok, because I feel like TikTok is just like the cesspool, the worst of the worst.
So let me ask you this. Do you think these platforms were designed to be intentionally toxic? Or is it something that once people get on them, the toxicity is from us?
I mean, it's definitely us, but I think that certain platforms, I think specifically TikTok, and you never know the intention of a creator or like the intention of what was behind it. It's just about where is it going and what is being allowed, I think is more so it. Whereas like so much stuff is being pushed on TikTok that realistically could be controlled better, but it really is just up to us wanting to consume basically trash. Because what it did, and I feel like Andy Warhol kind of like predicted this, where he was like, everybody's gonna have their 15 minutes of fame. And also in the Bible, it says something like, they'll be so foolish, they'll idolize themselves, like they'll make themselves gods. And now what are we doing? We're looking at our cell phone selfie camera instead of mirrors. Like we're not spending any time in the mirror. We're just looking at ourselves. We're performing. So now everything we do, every moment that we should just be sitting and really reflecting. I think there's a lot of power in sitting in front of the mirror, especially just like naked, like you in the mirror, looking at yourself, really working on your alignment. Like, wow, like my hips are kind of crooked. Wow, my arms are literally built different from holding my phone, stretching, enjoying it, and like enjoying the body, the vessel that you were given. Like if you spend a lot of naked time just in front of the mirror with yourself, you get to know yourself, a lot of time to think. You start actually appreciating your body in a way where you want to take care of it and stretch and work out and be a healthier version of yourself. But now it's just like, well, no, let me perform instead. So now like the selfie camera is a mirror, and it's like you never have this time to just be by yourself.
Next time Gabbie came back to her own platform was kind of just coming into like this weird religious TikTok debate, talking about if God loves LGBTQIA plus people. So that was very strange. In November of 2023 through January 2024, there were posts kind of on the Pennsylvania YMCA about Gabbie Hanna teaching fitness classes. And then in February, she was spotted at the University of Pittsburgh campus. In February of 2024, Gabbie began coming back to social media by promoting her third album on Instagram with an account that only garnered 124 followers. Where February 29th, 2024 marked the official comeback where Gabbie Hanna debuted her new single, Where Did I Go? Her formal return to YouTube was on March 6th, 2024 with a video titled A Year Without Social Media. The video opens up with Gabbie talking about how social media is very different than before she stopped, and then just spent a few minutes plugging merch that she was speaking at Oxford, Cameo, a single, Patreon, design company. 5 minutes in, Gabbie gets into why she took the break she needed since 2018, and she said that there were obvious reasons like all the drama that she was in, but that it extended more than that. She did not want people to win, as in other people such as myself that were commenting on her, but she was so caught up that she had released everything that she had kind of backed up, did every contractual obligation that she needed to, and then was just able to leave.
Okay, let's get into this. Thank you for indulging me. Okay, so why did I step back for so long? I think that there's some obvious reasons for a lot of you. You might have guessed a few reasons. And there's some reasons that were more personal to me. But I would say that the thing that forced me to take the break that I desperately needed since 2018 was honestly just not wanting to be a part of so much drama and stop giving the public so much access to me. I could not get online without seeing a new rumor, a new story. It just wasn't fun to be online anymore. Like online was my safe space since I was a kid. This is where I came to make friends because I was too scared in person to talk to people. But all of a sudden my comment section were just filled with so much vitriol that it was just like, why am I even here? I actually tried to take a step back so many times before this big recent break, but I always had some type of contractual obligation that I needed to be there for. It was either a book deal that I was obligated to promote through a certain number of videos, a book tour, an album I'd been working on for years. Actually, no, 2 albums that I'd been working on for years, a podcast that had ads booked out for literally months that I had to fulfill. So I was bound legally and financially to stay. But besides all that, besides the legal obligation, besides the deals, besides that, I never wanted to feel like I was letting people win. I don't let other people's opinions or actions dictate mine. I didn't ever want to be the image of somebody who couldn't persevere. I didn't want to go down giving anyone the satisfaction feeling like they'd won. But I was losing regardless. My pride was keeping me from my peace for so long.
She claims in this, which she claims tons of times, which is just demonstrably not true, that she's open to constructive criticism. Just because you say that you are doesn't mean you are, because when you take critical comments about you as narcissistic abuse, that means you're not able to perceive of constructive criticism. She did her last post on Valentine's Day of 2023 and then deleted everything. She talks about that. And then she had journaled and talked to herself and God. This is where, the Christian era kicks in, which I just really am not a fan of the born again Christian stuff, especially the way that Gabbie Hanna, which we get down the line, uses this as an excuse to be misogynistic and shame people because nothing's ever actually changed. There was a huge rant about God and worship, calls media evil because it highlights sex and greed and murder. What you're consuming all of this stuff, you're asleep, which I said a lot of this is really projection. There's very clear behaviors of projection if you can like remember what she did before. I think a big part about this distance was kind of the dependence that you were going to forget about the way that she treated people, especially because she removed all that content from her social media.
Back into that spiral, into that vortex of social media, it's like all my other bad habits instantly rush back in. My sleep schedule is bad, my diet is bad, my skincare is worse, so I'm breaking out, I'm restless, I'm sleepless, anxiety and depression come rushing back in. I'm in physical pain, I feel empty, and I keep trying to fill that hole with something. And I realized that's a God-shaped hole that I'm trying to fill. I'd been pushing him out for so long because I was choosing this outside world instead. That's what it is to sell your soul, by the way. It's not, this demon approaching you with a contract to sign in blood. Not always, anyway. It's the choices you make. It's what you decide to do for money. If you're not glorifying God, you're glorifying what is not of God. And a lot of times we're not even aware of it because of what we're being constantly told in the media. But when you get off, when you silence all these voices, you start hearing God's voice. You start talking to yourself and then start talking to God. So when I first got off social media and all of the noise stopped, that's when I started really hearing God. And then when I came back on, it was like all of this attention, all of my quiet time where I'm speaking to God all day, where I'm hearing from God all day, the assurance in the silence was gone. The health, the peace, the happiness, the joy, that was all gone. God never left. I was just ignoring him because I was choosing TikTok.
She says, the only one who can stop me is God, and God is on my team, as if it almost kind of makes it seem like there's an innate evil. There's a fallacy for this. It's like the us versus them fallacy. This is kind of just the way that Gabbie Hanna's always argued. But instead of saying everyone but me is a narcissistic abuser, it's just turned into everyone but me is against the path of God. That's what I'm saying. There is no functional difference. I built this channel on picking apart the way that she's presenting things and the way that Gabbie Hanna specifically brings forth an argument, and this is just very consistent behaviors to what there was before. Gabbie says, then Gabbie does a speaking engagement at the Oxford Union, which I also watched that video, which is where things start to get really dicey again. Opens with talking about being gone from social media and how she needed the year off to figure out what to do with herself and her audience. Said she was lucky to have been famous as late as 23 years old because she did not grow up with social media and was able to blow up at the peak of YouTube, and thought that was really cool. Gabbie mentioned always separating herself from people that like filmed all the time, so didn't want to hang out with the vlog squad that much, didn't want to make her actual life content, which is something that I do respect because I'm also quite a private person online. Then we get to that conversation around the poetry book. The interviewer brings up that she got a lot of criticism for it. Gabbie Hanna then claims that no one disliked the book, but then it became trendy to use her name. Then one girl went viral, and she just said you have to be careful who you take your opinions from, and I don't think any of these people are talented.
Did you how did you feel about kind of the reaction to the book? Obviously some people like loved it, and then also there was some people didn't like it. And was that kind of hard when it must be a very personal thing, right, to put poetry out? Some of it was quite personal, right?
Yeah, the thing with me with that was just like the first 2 or 3 years it was out, like everybody was just like really digging it and it was fine, but then it just kind of became trendy to use my name, and then like one girl went viral who like, the actual critiques don't bother me that much because like, this is gonna sound so bitchy, but whatever, like you have to be careful who you take your opinion from. Like you can say like you don't like my book, or you can like critique my literary style or whatever it is, but like I don't think you're interesting or intelligent or creative or artistic. So why the hell would I take your opinion? You're a loser. Sorry, like your opinion's nothing to me. So like that didn't bother me. It just got like kind of like boring. Yeah. When people were just like you're burning a book in 2020 that you bought in 2017. I already got your money. You know, it's just like, it's old. They bought the book. But at the same time, like it did make me better. It did, because like when everybody's critiquing you, like I will always take constructive criticism. Like I am not that girl. Like,
which is interesting because your perception of someone's talent is the very thing, or our specific perception of talent is the very thing that you're criticizing other people for. So you get to decide who's worthy and who's talented when the people who are being critical of you are saying that you're clearly not able to gauge your talent accurately. Then she calls her following a schedule OCD, which loved that. Being online uplifts the worst traits of people for minimum effort, which I mean, true, I fear. I've been a victim of that one. Anyway, claims her slam poetry about babies dying, becoming a meme, was the world gaslighting her.
So I got back online and I was just like pissed off. Like I was angry because I was like, I don't want to be here, but I also can't like walk away from this. Yeah. So then I remember I was doing like spoken word, like everything I was posting was under Gabbie Hanna poetry. So I was doing, I think it was like, I wish I could sleep. God, I wish I could sleep, but I can't sleep. There's babies dying on the street. And I'm like telling these stories of like, this is serious. Yeah, see, like people know it's like a meme. Yeah. But it's like, I'm literally doing slam poetry about children dying on the street. And you open up the comment section, nurse, she's out again. Somebody help her, she's crazy. And I'm like, oh, we're all free Britney, until this successful, talented girl is doing real stuff and being constantly told she's crazy, constantly being gaslighted when I'm telling you I'm fine. My bills are paid, my house is beautiful, my staff is paid. Like my life is fine, why are you so worried about me? Like why am I the crazy one when you're watching me live my dream? So I was just pissed off, and like somebody said the thing like, all the comments, like if you go look at it today, nurse, she's out again, nurse, she's out again. And I was just like, and oh, somebody said, somebody help her, because that's like one of the memes, somebody help her, somebody help her. So I said, help me. I'm the person who didn't go to Coachella to go volunteer in Watts, to go help the kids who need help. I'm the person who won't tour unless it's a food drive. I'm the person who's constantly raising money for the homeless. I'm the one who's doing all of these meet and greets only if you come and pack lunches for the people who are suffering from wildfires. Why do I need help?
Again, there are so many things that are just, it's just so much more repressed than it was before. Like these similar, even just like I said, vocabulary to how she projects her insecurities onto like the people around her. Had to quit social media to go through ego death. Okay, man who tries mushrooms the first time, like Jesus. Again, talking about the kind of criticism thing, Rachel Oates is super well educated on literary theory and very effective at applying it properly, but also teaching it properly, which is a whole other level that people really don't like to recognize. And you don't just take constructive criticism because you say you do. You can't only take people going, hey, I love your book, I love every single thing except, oh, like this one line could have been different. Constructive criticism can be someone not liking the entire thing. That is possible. It's not constructive criticism when it's in a compliment sandwich. It's not constructive criticism when it's handed to you like a child. But that's what you actually want, and it's very clear. So after this, Gabbie goes live on YouTube and released her next single. There's only an Internet Archive screenshot. I don't know what actually happens in it. July 29th, 2024, Gabbie interviews with Newcastle News. Video just talks about her moving back to Newcastle, Pennsylvania, and selling her house in LA. I said Vine fame was too much for a lot of people to handle, and she's happy that she was able to kind of deal with it for at least a time. And then she was headlining a music festival in Newcastle. After this, Gabbie Hanna releases 2 more singles. And to note as well, in 2024, Gabbie got tangentially involved in the Codyco scandal just because of a comment made by an occasional co-host of the Cancelled Podcast page, who said that Gabbie was actually on Tana's side and had warned Cody about Tana being a minor, but he ended up hooking up with her anyway. So that's just kind of something of note that happened last year. And then now this is regarding the return. We're going to move to the final part to talk about Gabbie Hanna getting married and marriage and etc. Part 3, apology video and marriage. So on September 11th, 2024, Gabbie Hanna releases a video called A Long Overdue Apology. And I remember tweeting, asking if y'all wanted to see it. And then the besties were not into it. So that's why I have it kind of tucked in at the end in a bigger video. Video is 17 minutes long and was recorded on exactly 10 years of Gabbie Hanna's first YouTube video coming out. So she starts by apologizing to the producers and crews on projects that she worked on and anyone that she had taken advantage of in this space. This is the only sort of specific apology that comes through on this entire thing. Says sorry to the friends that she was too negative to or had gossiped about. Apologizes to people, like this is how general it is. Apologizes to people that she made story times about. She says she didn't like that she profited off of their experiences with her or just in general.
Oh, I also want to say sorry
sorry to anybody who was a subject of a storytime video or who I shared a personal experience with, or even not a personal experience. Like anytime I've ever engaged in celebrity gossip or used somebody as a punchline, but mainly the story times, like when I was sharing these personal experiences online for entertainment content factor, like, yeah, one of my ickiest things, I feel like, which blows because it was also one of my biggest things, right? This is one of the reasons I deleted like all of my videos. I get that comment all the time, like, why'd you delete all your videos? And that was mostly it. It was just not a representation of myself. It was not a representation of Christ. It was not a representation of anybody I wanted to be. And it was off the backs of gossip and complaint.
Apologizes to her family for creating distance by becoming like an influencer, moving away, doing all that stuff. Apologizes to her fans for disappointing them and deleting content that had too many profanities. This is again, we're getting into that Christianity kind of shaming cycle stuff. And also apologizes for being inconsistent. I said she was an NPC for not having the Holy Spirit in her. That sent me. I was like, what the
But it was also dumb and bad and meaningless, and that's why it was so easy to churn it out. And also I was an NPC because I did not have the Holy Spirit in me, and I was just like operating like in this world, like literally a robot, like work, pay attention to me, make money, like really needed Jesus. Behold our God seated on his throne. Come, let us adore him. Behold our King. Nothing can compare. Come, let us adore. Oh, speaking of Behold Our God, I want to record a cover of that. And I also have to say,
it's hard to state how I feel without making people mad who are Christian. Not being able to understand a single thing and just pulling up random gospel to quote something to sustain the image you have of yourself, I feel like is more of an NPC behavior. That's all I'm going to say about that. Apparently, she does not have beef with anyone anymore. She says if it is, it's their problem, like it's their side. Says a prayer, oh my God, the end was crazy. Then she says a prayer for victims of 9/11, because it was around September 11th, for Americans, and that people would be more empathetic and the whole world would need to join together under the body of God, under Christ, our Lord and Savior, or whatever. Which is like such a manifest destiny ass way of like, man, anyway, whatever.
Watching this, or if I get this uploaded today the 10th or tomorrow the 11th, either way, I want to say a quick prayer. As you know, God, it is almost the anniversary of September 11th, 2001, which shook America. Well, a lot of us, many of us, remember where we were, what we were wearing, what was going on around us. Like it truly changed life forever. It changed our perspective. It changed the way we traveled. It changed the way we looked at each other, the way we communicated. Life changed in that moment, and things have gotten worse.
The reactions to the apology were definitely mixed, with some feeling that it was positive just because of mostly kind of her demeanor and her not being vicious and kind of not blaming other people much throughout the entire thing. And then creators who commented on it, typically it was a range between like neutrality to hesitancy to disgust. Rachel Oates commented on this from the span of how like there's no genuine apology to her, which is very fair, along with the Christian era and the utilization of like either direct or niche or underlying criticizing of what leads to like women's movement and people being able to be more progressive. And one thing I want to point out too is how self-centered all of this still feels, because when she was talking about the apology, there's so many times where she says, I got my lick back. So it was just so much of it was the only reason I could feel like I've done a bad thing was because bad things happened to me afterwards, which should not be the only way that you can perceive that you've done something wrong. It just really doesn't make sense. Rachel talks about in her video as well about Gabbie's reaction to her parody book, which reminds me how Gabbie always says, Gabbie said was like she talked about stories of abuse and things like that in the poetry. Therefore, the parody book that Rachel wrote is making fun of the assault, not the writing and the way that someone is being insensitive about the way that they're showing things. Like Rachel really hated this one poem that Gabbie had about self-harm called Cut, for example. Gabbie is very consistent in this. If you criticize this aspect of me, what I'm going to do is connect it to a greater world problem instead of anything about myself. And therefore you're shaming this prejudice, this disadvantaged position, anything like that, as opposed to it just being like, no, diva, I don't fuck with you. Anyways, at the same time, Gabbie was making content about needing to be modest and how much shame she felt for being prideful, but then utilizes that to be like, I hate when women have their boobs out. Then on November 30th, 2024, Gabbie was making content consistently at this time, and then she launches a new man via Instagram, and then all of a sudden has a couple account for them at the same time. And then when I looked at the bio, they're both visibly Christian. They got crosses the whole nine. The bio for the account says, all glory to God. Love that. And then the two are married by May 25th, 2025. So what I want to do, it's too hot in here for me to keep recording, genuinely. I want to circle back and read a little bit of kind of Christian philosophy and like expand more on Gabbie's arguments, or not Christian philosophy per se, but like talking about the utilization of like religion in media and how people like could discuss things, and how Gabbie's just a victim of that pipeline as opposed to like the narcissistic abuse, the narcissistic like influencery kind of pipeline, and like the vanity and the American dream part. Instead of that, she's just kind of in like the not Christo-fascist yet, but some of those like very niche underlying parts of that. I'm gonna do another Garfield card video part where I do that reading, because one, you never see my face anyway, and two, I want to give the time to finding the right readings, which I just realized I hadn't done yet when I sat down to do this, but I don't want to film a second time, so you're gonna get that. And then I'll conclude, you'll see my face again. For the reading, I want to read Kenneth Burke's The Rhetoric of Religion. This paper in particular is the epilogue for Prologue in Heaven. So I'm just going to read. You can watch my wonderful Garfield cart footage to get a vibe of what I'm reading. So it says, insofar as men are animals, they derive purposes from their physical nature. For instance, bodily hunger is enough to move them in search of food. Also, they can invent machines with built-in purposes. For instance, missiles that will pursue a moving target with the persistence of a maniac, and that we are responsible for no other kinds of signal. But machines are given such purposes by men, since language makes it impossible for men to be content with the sheer bodily purpose, and insofar as men cannot live by bread alone, they are moved by doctrine, which is ought to say they derive purpose from language, which tells them what they ought to want to do, tells them how to do it, and in telling goads them with great threats and promises, even with the gates of heaven and hell. With language, a whole new realm of purpose arises, endless in scope, as contrasted with the few rudimentary purposes we derive from our bodies. The needs for food, drink, shelter, and sex in their physical simplicity. Language can even build purpose out of the ability to comment on the nature of purpose. However, the purposes that arise through the tangles made possible by language are not merely the old bodily appetites in new form. They are appetites differing not just in degree but in kind. The two kinds differ so greatly, as tested by the wishes of the body, the purposes supplied by language, by doctrine, can amount to even a kind of built-in frustration. Simplest example. What hungry belly could be quieted by a poem in praise of food? Yet, as we said, language will not let men be satisfied with sheer bodily purposes either, as other animals presumably are. In any case, obviously, the talking animal's way of life in a civilization invents purposes, rationalized by money, which is a language, a kind of purpose in the absolute and a universal wishing well, and empires arise. Such networks of production and distribution, made possible by language, become necessary. So they raise problems, and many purposes are an attempt to solve those problems, plus the vexing fact that the solution raises further problems. Confidentiality, that's the dialectic. But the very resources of language to which such quandaries owe their rise and goad men to further questioning, for language makes questioning easy. Given language, you can never be sure what quest ends and what question begins. Hence the search for one grand overall purpose, as with the philosophers, metaphysicians, and theologians. Theologians? I hope I said that right. Along the lines, the prologue of heaven, in which you're about to witness, is a parable of purpose. And then it proceeds to kind of go into this prologue. I remember I read this actual prologue before. It's just kind of the story about, if I remember correctly, it's like arguing over the quest between freedom and praising the Lord of creation and things along that line. But what I want to talk about is the explanation of like the man's invention of language and the constant quest for finding answers and the ways that they utilize it, right? So he talks about machines and how they are able to serve the purpose of the language by man. But then man is made only by kind of divine creation. So who is the creator to have those answers that people forever are striving for, which is very common when we talk about atheism versus just theism in general, and just kind of the concept of, you know, believing in a god or what have you. So with this in mind, though, when we're talking about Gabbie, right, Gabbie is somebody who is very clearly desperately looking for these answers, and in that she's kind of in this constant strive for explaining away her behaviors and her actions outside of the scope of responsibility and outside of direct involvement. And that's why she says things like, I'm being led by God, because that is supposed to be the creator of man, the creator of purpose. Therefore, you're unable to question it, which is just as before she was saying it was like kind of karma, or it was her right. The question was of morality. All she's done, I feel like, is that she just felt like there was no wiggle room left in this morality aspect, because she was starting to maybe feel that regret and kind of not be able to get out of it anymore. So in turn, what she kind of moved into instead was just shifting the blame to a deity, which I've talked about before. I talked about it with Brittany Dawn as well, and this is something that's quite common with really evil people who become born-again Christians, for example, and something that's worth visiting when people kind of suddenly shift those behaviors. But Gabbie Hanna is the same person who has no control and is just in a search for answers, but pretends to have an authority over that answer because of her belief in Christianity, which is unfortunately not an uncommon result to come to. So yeah, that was Kenneth Burke, one of my favorite rhetoricians. Maybe I might have found the paper online, hopefully, and I can put it on screen. But otherwise, I hope you liked the Garfield cart, and I hope you liked the video. Bye! So to conclude, we have gone through Gabbie Hanna's kind of 2021 downfall arc, her hiatus, and then kind of her seemingly rise to, like, kind of coming into Christianity and doing all of that stuff, her getting married, but also like the disappointment of Rachel Oates throughout all of this, as well as myself and other people. Links, sources, way to support the channel, all that kind of stuff, all down below, along with an email to suggest content. Thank you so much to my members and patrons. Once again, I love you all dearly. You're my little besties, and I'll see ya when I see ya. Bye.
Holy shit, I'm geeked right now. TGIF. Thank God I'm faded. Oh yeah.